Well, let's move on to some positive news tonight. The voice behind the wall tells the story of the Afrikaans language and music industry and the racial imbalances which still exist amongst almost 30 years after the end of Apartheid. The documentary won the award for the Best African Film at the 2023 Cannes Film Festival. It exposes cultural expropriation and how the Afrikaans language, which has its origins in the brown communities, was used to oppress the victims of apartheid. Now, to tell us more about the film, I'm now joined by the directors and writers Riku Lati and Gideon Breitenbach. Good evening to you, gentlemen. Thank you very much for joining us here on Newsnight. First and foremost, a big congratulations, Best African Film at the Cannes Film Awards. So what was your initial reaction? Excitement?
Yeah, we were blown away when we found out. We first had to check all the websites to make sure it's not fake news or something here. But it seems to be true, and we have enjoyed it.
Yeah. Is it? And you?
Yes. No, disbelief. At first I said, maybe we got nominated or something, or accepted or something. And then, no, the message came through. We actually won. So I told my dad. But it didn't sink in until I saw my dad's reaction and realized that he's so, overwhelmed. And I was thinking, okay.
This is actually happening.
Yeah.
Amazing. We're so proud of the both of you and the documentary. But let's dive into what the documentary is all about, because it tackles a very serious issue in South Africa. So just elaborate, and maybe people who haven't come across the documentary yet, what is it about?
What happened was we went with a program called Die Wasgoedlyn. We went to people's homes and started playing with music and started talking music. And we realized that there's a really rich tapestry of music out there among all communities. But when it comes to the commercial scene, those guys making the big money, it's predominantly white artists, and we thought, this is funny. And then one day we went to David Kramer's house, and he started telling us the story about the Afrikaans language is not even a white language. It's basically the language that was formed when local communities or even the slaves started to speak to the Dutch people. And then this new language formed, the Creole Afrikaans that we know today, was basically formed from the brown communities. And the true art of the Afrikaans music, and the first were the brown artists. They were playing this beautiful music. And a lot of those part of music developed. And then suddenly, because of apartheid and nationalism, it was appropriated, kind of. You know, the language of from 1875, there was this Genootskap van Regte Afrikaners, which was a community that basically said, okay, now we're taking the Afrikaans language and giving it a name and giving it rules. And then it was taken away from basically the brown community that started it, and it became a white thing. And then white music was imported from Europe and translated into this language. And that became the music that was played on the air, and the indigenous music of all the very mixed music that was already starting to form was basically banned from the airwaves because of the nationalism. And then we stuck with the system where now, today, we have the residue of that, where, if, like Newton said, if you don't actually apply force to an object, it will stay the same. And now the residue of apartheid is the legacy is the new people are not, if we're not going to change it, the imbalance will stay. And that we went to talk to a lot of artists, and they told the story, and it became clear. And Gideon, a brilliant story finder from the footage, put it all together, and the story came up, and he made a wonderful film together. And when I saw the first cut of it, I got so excited because it really told the story. And the music was beautiful. And there's also this character, Churchill Nadir, who's a brilliant poet. And we walk in his shoes a day in his life. He's a carpenter, and he has to work to build shelves for other people to make money, even though his music is fantastic. His words are wonderful. But he doesn't get to live as a true artist. And
doesn't have the platform.
That's right.
Gideon, racial issues in South Africa are always a very sensitive and tricky topic. For you, why did you think it was so important to tell these stories, despite the possible backlash or commentary that you could receive?
I think there were two moments during the making that drove us. The one is definitely Churchill and his story. he makes amazing music and he doesn't get the platform. And that kind of drove us all the way through. That's why he's our main character in the film. And the other one was our interview with David Kramer, where we found out, okay, this is the real history. And people need to hear this. If they don't hear it, then they can't even attempt to change or think that they need to change. And I think that's what drove us throughout. And even though it might be controversial, we thought the truth is the most important thing. So.
Definitely. So let's zoom in on some of these characters that you portray in the documentary. Obviously, these are real people with real lives and real talent and real music. Amazing platform for them to be showcased in this way, not just their talents, but their stories as well. So let's chat about them a little bit and who are the so-called stars of this documentary.
Well, apart from Churchill, there's Fraser Barry and Daniel Barry. They bring a real important part of the story where they actually, look, we don't want our story told. We went out and interviewed about 150 people. And from those stories, we asked, how is life for you? And how is music for you? And what became very dominant was Sandy from the band Tribal Echo. He said, when he sees these festivals, that there's always just one guy that is not white. Always just one. So there's this whole policy that if there's one guy, that's enough. And that means that the audience will, it's not going to reflect who's going to go just for one guy. So we need to create a system where on stage there's something for everybody so that our audiences can become mixed and actually learn from each other. So there's the Tribal Echo guys, there's David Kramer, Anton Goosen is there. We had a wonderful afternoon in his place, playing music with Anton Goosen and then talking all these stories. Koos Kombuis, my biggest gereformeerde blues band. You know, the Voelvry movement, they was against apartheid, rebelling. And even Pik Botha told Lloyd Ross, the music producer that produced a lot of music in the 80s for protest music, he said to him that when the National Party realized that the kids are not with them anymore, that's when they realized that the back is broken of this system, and then they had to change because the kids weren't believing their stories anymore.
Yeah.
So the music was the beacon that the National Party needed to realize, hey, this can't go on. The kids aren't with us. They are, and that changed
the narrative.
So important people for not for this story alone, but also for South Africa. Lloyd Ross, he's a beacon. He found Koos Kombuis and Johannes Kerkorrel and the Mackenzies.
And these are the stories that South Africans don't know and that are so important to be told. So that's why platforms like this and opportunities like this are definitely needed. But let's shift focus briefly and talk about the film industry in South Africa. I read an article and it stated that there wasn't an appropriate film to put forward for the Oscars in 2023. That's disheartening because there are so many talented directors and producers and actors that we have in South Africa, and are they maybe not just getting the right opportunities? Where are the loopholes? And what do we need to change to sort of strengthen the film industry in South Africa?
Yeah, it's a difficult question to answer. I think we do have great festivals in this country. We were lucky to be at a few of them. So I think there's first of all, there are good films out there, and the festivals are there showcasing that. I'm not sure if the NVF and those organizations are aware of what's going on at the festivals, and I think maybe there's a gap between those two parties, and maybe that's where the problem lies. Yeah.
Okay, so if people want to see the documentary, is it available for the public to view? What is the process?
We're still on a festival circuit now, which doesn't allow broadcast on public broadcaster, but we are looking into streaming services. We are looking at on-demand services. As soon as we have a definite answer, we'll
Amazing.
people
Well,
know,
we
yeah.
hope to be able to watch it and view it soon so that we can see what the voice behind the wall is all about, even though we've heard from the both of you. But thank you, gentlemen, for your time this evening and joining us in studio. And again, a huge congratulations on this massive achievement. I'm sure the country is extremely proud of you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
My absolute pleasure. That was directors Riku Lati and Gideon Breitenbach. They are the directors of The Voice Behind the Wall, and that is the African Film of the Year at the Cannes Film Awards. So a huge congratulations there for South Africa and the film industry at large.